Hi guys. Um, this video is going to be quite slow. so, so yeah, I apologize in advance for that, or obviously just don't watch it if it's too boring. Um, I just want to get out. It's just my energy at the moment. I'm not normally. I'm quite when I'm just very. I feel very stagnant. Strangely enough, because I spent the whole day doing this. The whole day, all the time, all of it, all of it, the whole day, the whole day, the whole day. Uh, um, I mean, I have. That's kind of part of what I want to talk about. Is just I don't know what it's been like for you people out there, but the last couple of months, and particularly around the full moon, this energy's become very, very pushy. Um, Positive, lots of positive changes, which I'll talk about in the video. Little shifts, or shifts that seem little, but I'd say actually quite significant. I think. Um, but yeah, just this relentless nature to the energy, almost like if you're walking with Shakti along a path, and she's leading you, and she's got you by a rope or reins. In England, years ago, that people used to put their children on reins, like a dog, like on the lead, and people, when you look at these pictures now, I mean, I used to be on reins, and my brothers and sisters, it seems kind of I feel like something a bit off about it, but actually it was, stops you running into the road. Anyway, that's a bit of a unnecessary spiel. Yeah, so Shakti's just leading you on reins. It's kind of like up till recently, she allows you to stop and pick the flowers. She's like, come on, stop, I'm coming, but I'm looking at the butterflies, I'm looking at the trees. And then recently she's just like, no, come on. And I'm just like, it's like, yeah, but look at the, ah! She's just like, just come on. It's just, yeah, it's a little bit, it's getting a bit hot, under the collar. That's what it feels like. Very pushy. Um, so one of the things that happened was that I saw on YouTube a girl talks about Kundalini. Her name is Alexandra Francesca, young pretty girl, always has interesting things to say. Lady, I should say. Girl sounds like she's a child, but lady. Um, she was saying that she was talking about gratitude and how you can apply gratitude, for example, saying thank you to thoughts and emotions like negative emotions or negative thoughts in the morning when you wake up or whatever. It's applying gratitude. And it's something that I'd heard on the spiritual path. Never really don't think I've done it, or it always felt forced if I'd done it in the past. Like you're really angry, like thank you, anger, thanks so much. It was kind of like that in the past. But anyway, she explained for a while about why this is a good technique, and I didn't really remember the explanation. However, I remembered the technique. So the other day, I was talking to someone on the phone, and they said something that just really triggered me. Well, it didn't trigger me it didn't trigger me in an aggressive way, but it triggered the very familiar feeling of unworthiness. That familiar, oh, I'm a piece of shit kind of feeling. That kind of sinking, like just comes on. it just comes on. You're like, fuck. Damn it, here we are again. Um, it was subtle. It wasn't a big one of those. It was a subtle one of those, but it was there. And it was quite strange how this played out because I was talking to my friend and listening to what she was saying, but it was almost like another part of my brain at the same time as this feeling of unworthiness arose, just said, brilliant, brilliant, a feeling of unworthiness. Excellent. Right on time. Excellent. Great. Welcome. I thought you were never going to come, that kind of attitude. And by the time I put the phone down, it was gone. It was just gone. And I was like, wow, it worked. And I spoke to one of my guides because I'm doing a course at the moment. These two angelic figures are just helping me and a few others with our process. And that's very intense. It's very, very intense. But she said, I'm very happy for your shift. So she like it sounded to her that it was a fairly big deal. So I was like, okay, well that's great. So I recommend that practice um, if you have those feelings, and it can be applied to negativity and things like that as well. Certainly for me in that moment, it worked a charm. So that was a nice little encouraging little shift there. Um, and then more recently, um, I've had this knot in my chest, in my heart area. I mean, like, might as well be forever. I don't know. I mean, I noticed it in my 20s, I think. Of course, at the time, I just thought it was a medical issue. It's like, well, I've got acid reflux, and I take medication for it. And that was terrible because it was really, I was taking acid blockers and omeprazole that are really powerful and just really mess up your system. So, do not recommend those. But anyway, obviously, during the Kundalini process, you start to realize that all these things are unaddressed areas of your body slash psyche, body mind. I mean body, but obviously connected to. Um, so you go in there with your attention, and that's what's been happening throughout my Kundalini process. It's just attention, just going to all these attention energy, going to all these different areas and feeling into those areas, healing those areas. And throughout these, what's been nearly 3 years now, it's been going up to the brain, and it's been doing so much work on my trapped nerve, and just very functional things. But what's great about doing work on your trapped nerve is there's no emotional component there. It's just a physical thing that you know but all the time I was aware that this was just the bit that really is like that's tight. That's a cluster of massive knots right there. And every now and again my attention would go, and sometimes a little bit would loosen, and I could just breathe a little bit easier, and I'd start wheezing a little bit, and then a little bit more air would come through. I was like, oh, thank God. But it's massive. It's massive, and I'm sure there's trauma there. No, I mean, definitely. But I had a bit of a breakthrough with that the other day. Um, I was online with my guides, and we were focusing our attention there, and I just broke down. I just broke down in tears, and I was just wanting to get rid of this thing, because I've been trying to like drill through it and soften it, and just nothing's really. And like I say, bits have been coming off, but it's just shards, you know. It just feels so solid. And then I was just guided to just bring attention down through the chakras, and then I just started, as I was putting attention there, I just started breaking down, and then like hyperventilating. And I had to, and as my guide kept talking and talking and sort of guiding the energy, I was flailing around on my chair. I was doing yogic back bends on my chair. It's like every ounce of my being and body and spirit was just wanting to get rid. It's like this is what we need to deal with, like here, here, here. Like this inner child in my heart that has just been screaming for years, and I feel like I've just been not listening, you know, and suddenly I was just sat with it, and I was just like, like crying, like holding on to I had to hold on to the table to steady myself because of the waves of emotion that were coming up. Um, but it was great because it was a purge. It was what I needed, you know. And afterwards, I felt exhausted, like emotionally rinsed, you know. And then I was still crying in the evening, and I just couldn't cry anymore. My eyes were red, and it's like my tear ducts had dried up. I had to go and sit in the park and just kind of stare into space, and I was just like that, like I just had nothing left. And yeah, and then I went to bed, and I had a dream in the night that my heart space was completely open and expansive, and it just felt so natural. It was just normal. It felt amazing because I wasn't used to it. You know, I felt very vulnerable at first, but it was incredible. Um, so I took that so I got up in the morning, and I was really happy all of a sudden because I know what it can be like without all this. And what happened, the upshot of it all is I just made friends with my heart again. It's like I'm just acknowledging that area now, and I'm not running away from it, and I'm not repressing it. I think I've just been running, just not wanting to go there, you know. So now I just, whenever and I can't tell you the amount of activity and bull, and just I don't know what's going on in there, but it's crazy. It feels like I've got a second heart that's just doing this and contracting, and it tries to like release, and it tries to like relax, and I'm trying to relax it, and then it contracts, and it's just like, oh God. It's like I'm just sitting with it, just like, you know, it's yeah, I've just made a pact with it that I'm not gonna ever let it down again, and I'm just gonna be there for my heart, essentially. I know this sounds cheesy, I don't care. Um, yeah, we've made friends again now, and it's a big step forward in the right direction. But there's so much work. I mean, that is a huge part of the work I need to do. I was sitting by a tree today meditating, and just all my attention was just going there, and it affects my breathing and everything. Like my breathing can't quite And I've always noticed it when I do yoga, you know, because we do a lot of pranayama, and then I'm just like, and I'm breathing, and this the breath just suddenly stops, and it's like I can't get a proper breath, so I'm like forcing the breath in, which is like it's like a workout, you know, just breathing. Often for me is like a workout because I can't quite, the air can't quite pass through because I'm so tight. So there's just a lot of emotion around here, a lot of emotion, and sometimes I'll just be walking around and I'll start like hyperventilating a little bit and have to sit down and ground myself. But it's all good stuff. Another cool thing that's happened recently. I met a no, a soulmate. I think it's a soulmate. Um, Obviously, in this world, you hear a lot about twin flames and soulmates, and I'd always heard about them and watched videos about the topic and been very intrigued. Some people say it's a real thing. Some people say it's nonsense. I can attest to the fact that it's a real thing. It's definitely a real thing. I mean, it doesn't matter what you call it, but yeah, there's people that you meet, you know, in this case of the opposite sex, and it's just like what it feels like is that, say you're over here and you're kind of doing your spiritual sadhana and your progress and you're sort of moving like that, and she's over there, and then suddenly you come together and it's like you just play this little dance together, and you start speeding up your spiritual progress, like that's how I see it, like two stars that are orbiting and they come together and it's like whoa, 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 whoa. Because the number of synchronicities around us and you know things like that, just the numbers and the animals that we're seeing, and it's just like weird stuff going on. Like I'll be sitting here and she'll be the other side of London, and we're both going through the exact same experience. Like at one point, we both had energy just pooling in our sacrals, and we're on the phone. Like, are you feeling like this as well? It's like, yeah, I'm feeling like that as well. It was like a low MDMA kind of dose. We're just like, whoa, what the hell? Um, and that's been really cool. And I came up with this cool little description of the soulmate, and this is what it's been like for me. I don't know what it's like for other people, but what it feels like is there's an undeniable spiritual connection, a bit of confusion as to whether it's a romantic thing or not. It's kind of like not really sure, sort of, but not sure. So, but and it's like we're both shrouded in this bubble of love and connection. And within that bubble of love, it's like we're free to kind of trigger each other because it's okay because of that connection. So you end up just kind of like triggering triggering each other. And she said something to me on the phone just the other day, and I don't even know why I got triggered. I spent a while trying to figure out what happened, but I started hyperventilating. My body started going. I had to go and lie down on the floor and just let it pass and just put my hands on myself. I have to say, for me, all of this stuff is very, very physical. Like, even when I'm like really emotional, it, my approach is just what does the body need? It's like I just look at the body like a child and I'm like, okay, what do you need right now? You know, and so it simplifies a lot of the time what's happening because you can make a big deal out of things and tell a whole story about something. But I think my approach is just kind of the same with the crying and the heart thing. It's just the body needs to do that, and just okay, just calm down the body and just allow it, just allowing it to express what it needs to express. And yeah, so there's a kind of there's an okayness around all of these things. Whenever I'm breaking down or I'm crying, there's always an okayness with it because it's obvious that it's just very functional. It's just what the body needs to do. That's the way it feels like at the moment. Anyway. Yeah, and the triggering thing is quite, it's just useful because it just gives you a little, it gives you a little insight as to why you were triggered, oftentimes. Often I'll say something hoping for a response, which I'm sure I'm going to get, and the response is something completely different. And I'm like, wait, she didn't acknowledge that or validate that about me. And I'm like, oh, why am I looking for validation? That kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, that's coming from me. You start to kind of self inquire a little bit because you're not always getting the feedback that you expected. Yeah, and we're so different. I think that's the point of it. So as the energy is getting more pushy, it is, yeah, I will say that it is intense. I will say that. Um, but the shifts that are coming from that are very positive. That's a good way to describe it. Like I really feel like to go back to that metaphor, I really feel like I'm being dragged, or pushed from behind even quite forcefully. Like I don't have a lot of downtime from the Kundalini at the moment. I think that's what it is. There's a relentlessness to it. And yeah, out of that relentlessness is coming change upon change upon shift upon shift. And for example, I went to this non duality meeting the other day with these two awesome guys. You know, yeah, I feel weird now about mentioning non duality speakers. I don't know if I should say people's names because I know it can be very challenging and triggering for people that whole thing. So um, anyway, it doesn't matter. I went to not your meeting with two lovely, lovely people. Very, the warm-hearted version of non-duality, if there is such a thing. No, there is. And I asked some questions about Kundalini. One of the things I was told was don't play with the energy, as in magical manifestation, messing around, focusing on your third eye, which I agreed with. But I'm glad he said it because I've always had an interest in magic. I think I come from that background in my lineage. Certainly, there's at least one guy who was worked with Aleister Crowley, and he was a magician, and he was into the whole. He wrote some incredible books about the Sephiroths and the Tree of Life and mysticism and he was massively into mathematics actually and numerology and stuff like that. So he was all into that stuff. Um, and so for a while I was like, I should figure out what he was into, but I bought some books. I just never practiced it, and I'm glad that I didn't because the energy here anyway is just, it's just so chaotic anyway, and so intelligent in what it's doing, and so but feels chaotic, you know. So I don't think you want to add you don't think you want to add on top of that anyway. um but he wrote, I mean, I just love the titles of his books. One of them is called Anatomy of the Body of God, which I thought flows off the tongue so poetically. Anatomy of the body of, isn't it? Anatomy of the body of God. Sorry, I'm a poetry guy, so I appreciated that. So where am I at? Yeah, so I asked some questions, and this was like a month ago, something like that. And then I went on to a Zoom meeting with the same guys, and the guy said to me, "Mate, you're like a different person energetically." He was like, because when you came to the in-person meeting, like you could hardly speak. You were kind of like really edgy, and I didn't really notice that in myself at the time, but he clearly did. And that was like a month ago, and so it just shows how much growth, how much you can you know, how much the energy can shift in a very short space of time, which is great. But it is nonetheless, yeah, I'm feeling the intensity at the moment, and that full moon was just very like, my God. Um, and you know what's daunting is that this is nothing compared to the experiences of those who have gone before me, and of my, you know, the experiences of my guides and the other people. So it does, you know, I don't have a lot of fear around at the moment around things that I may experience, and it's mostly because the fear would kind of be pointless. Like, well, you know, it's like being afraid of being afraid. It's kind of like, well, I'm sure I'll be afraid when it comes to it, but there's certainly no point in that kind of anticipatory fear, which is bound to just make things worse anyway. And yeah, there is a sense that, my God, you know, as the energy starts to ramp up and you listen to people, you're like, Jesus, what am I in for? You know? Yeah. Shit. Um, yeah. One can only hope to surrender when the time comes, you know. I shall probably leave that one there. Thank you for listening to this. I hope some of it was helpful slash useful slash interesting, or at least entertaining. My energy is not quite as exuberant as usual, so I hope it wasn't too boring. Yeah, cheers.